Taylor Swift's team is now coming out swinging, and that is super interesting. An article just dropped about Taylor Swift is alleging that Blake Lively is lying, but is Taylor telling the truth, or is this just a strategy to save her own skin? And Blake Lively's PR team wants us to know that everything that's happening right now is hurting Blake's feelings. Blake Lively sources say Justin Baldoni lawsuit is causing her and Ryan Reynolds severe anguish. In that article, we're told that Blake Lively is quote unquote emotionally zapped, but she remains confident nonetheless. And the legal battles have apparently, quote, taken a deep emotional toll on the actress. You know, someone asked me recently why this particular case has seized the world. It was just a perfect act of evil that was almost executed in broad daylight. The press was complicit. They almost got it done. This guy would have canceled nothing. What would have happened to Justin Baldoni? He would have been canceled. Taylor Swift is now fighting back hard. Her team is not pulling any punches over the last 12 hours. And there is an article that just got dropped in TMZ about an hour and a half ago, and they're making it clear that she wants nothing to do with this case. She's calling out Blake Lively for lying, okay? In other words, Taylor had no idea there was a meeting going on with Justin. She was introduced to him for the first and only time. Taylor believes Blake timed her meeting with Justin so Taylor would arrive before he left, and there's more. Taylor is also learning that Blake has been inappropriately leveraging her name for a long time. So is it possible that they use her name that when she's not there and she's not aware? Sure. I think Taylor Swift is lying. Here's an element where I believe she's just flat out caught lying, okay? At one point, to feature her song, she got somebody fired. That is the allegation that is made, and she's curiously not responding to that. And I do also want to say this. Smartest move that Bryan Freedman could make is to put her on the stand. It's the last thing that Blake and Ryan want, is to have their major A-list fan that they have been using to threaten people behind the scenes suddenly put on the stand and exposed. It would be such a inglorious end to their friendship.
I can tell you this, anyone that can provide evidence in this case is going to be deposed.
That's Taylor Swift.
She was there for that meeting.
Okay, well, I'm a lawyer. I know what that means.
Justin Baldoni's lawyer just dropped a bombshell. If Blake Lively refuses to settle, he will depose Taylor Swift. And that is the last thing Blake Lively wants. Because if Taylor is forced to testify, Hollywood's best-kept secrets could be exposed. This isn't just about a lawsuit. This is about power, who wields it, who manipulates it, and who just got caught. According to insiders, Blake Lively has been leveraging Taylor Swift's name for years, and now it might all come crashing down. And Taylor, her team is not holding back. Because Justin Baldoni's lawyer Bryan Freedman just played the ultimate power move. He told Blake's team point blank, "Settle this on my terms, or I will put Taylor Swift on the stand." And if that happens, it could change everything. But here's the real question. Is Blake really the villain here, or is Taylor hiding something too? The answer is not what you think. Let's break it all down.
But we'll see what the documents actually say, because that's what we have, are documents. Documents actually don't lie. People do. And it's important that everyone sees all of the documents that are involved in the case, because there are people that have been destroyed as a result of the allegations that have been made so far in this case.
This isn't just a simple lawsuit, it's a battle of reputations, and Blake Lively is scrambling. According to reports, her PR team is in full damage control mode, trying to spin the story in her favor. Sources close to Blake claim that she's emotionally zapped, and that the lawsuit is taking a severe toll on her mental well-being. But here's where things get interesting. Taylor Swift's team is not buying it. Taylor has made it clear. She wants nothing to do with this mess. In fact, her team is now calling out Blake for twisting the narrative and dragging Taylor into something she had no part in. Blake's side, however, paints a different picture. They claim that Taylor and Justin Baldoni had secret discussions that were crucial to this case. They insist that Taylor knew more than she's letting on. But there's a catch. Justin Baldoni's team sees this for what it really is. And Bryan Freedman, he's not playing games. He told Blake's lawyers in no uncertain terms, "We settle this my way, or Taylor Swift takes the stand." And if that happens, everything Blake has been hiding could come out. Because for years, Blake has leveraged her A-list connections, and Taylor's name in particular, to secure deals, influence projects, and boost her status in Hollywood. If Taylor gets forced to testify, all of that could be exposed. So now the question isn't just who's telling the truth, it's who has the most to lose. And it turns out, Blake might not be the only one with secrets. But before we get to that, let's talk about the one allegation Taylor Swift isn't responding to.
Taylor Swift's team is now coming out swinging, and that is super interesting. An article just dropped about Taylor Swift is alleging that Blake Lively is lying, but is Taylor telling the truth, or is this just a strategy to save her own skin?
Blake Lively might be in panic mode, but here's where things get even messier, because Taylor Swift isn't exactly coming out of this unscathed. According to insiders, there's one allegation she's refusing to address. And it's not just some minor industry gossip, it's a career-altering accusation. Here's what we know. At one point, Taylor allegedly used her influence to get someone fired, all because they featured her song without due permission. Let that sink in. For years, Taylor has built her empire on being the relatable, self-made artist who fights against corporate greed. But now, she's accused of pulling strings behind the scenes, just like the industry power players she's always claimed to be against. And she's staying completely silent about it. If Bryan Freedman follows through on his threat to put Taylor on the stand, this won't just be about Blake Lively anymore. It could turn into a full-scale Hollywood reckoning, with Taylor Swift at the center of it. Because if she testifies, she won't just be asked about Blake's case. She could be questioned about everything. How many times has her name been used for leverage? How many deals have happened behind closed doors? And just how much control does she really have? This is exactly why Taylor is desperate to distance herself. But it might be too late, because the moment this case moves forward, Hollywood's dirty secrets won't stay buried. And speaking of hidden agendas, let's talk about the one claim Blake Lively is pushing that isn't adding up.
And Blake Lively's PR team wants us to know that everything that's happening right now is hurting Blake's feelings. Blake Lively sources say Justin Baldoni lawsuit is causing her and Ryan Reynolds severe anguish. In that article, we're told that Blake Lively is quote unquote emotionally zapped, but she remains confident nonetheless. And the legal battles have apparently, quote, taken a deep emotional toll on the actress.
While Taylor Swift is doing everything she can to distance herself from this legal mess, Blake Lively is taking the opposite approach, doubling down and making sure the world hears her side of the story. According to her team, she was manipulated, pressured, and backed into a corner over creative decisions. But here's the problem. There's barely any evidence to support that claim. Hollywood insiders are calling her out, saying this entire case feels more like a publicity stunt than a legitimate lawsuit. And let's be real, does this really sound like an open and shut case of industry manipulation, or just another desperate attempt to stay relevant? Because here's something no one's talking about. Blake Lively's star power has been fading. Think about it. When was the last time she headlined a major movie or dominated pop culture the way she used to? Blake was once Hollywood's golden girl, but lately, she's been struggling to hold onto the spotlight. And now, as she finds herself at the center of a scandal that conveniently keeps her name in the headlines, some are wondering, is this really about justice? Or is it about making sure she stays in the conversation? Either way, Blake is running out of options, because if this case goes to trial, her credibility will be on the line. And worse, if Taylor Swift is forced to testify, it could expose Blake's entire strategy. But what happens when Taylor's next move catches everyone off guard? Let's talk about the one thing no one saw coming. Blake Lively might be fighting for her reputation, but Taylor Swift? She's making a completely different move. Instead of defending her so-called best friend, Taylor is backing away. Fast. According to insiders, she wants nothing to do with this case, and she's making that crystal clear behind the scenes. Why? Because the last thing Taylor Swift wants is to get dragged into a courtroom where she has to answer questions under oath. Her entire public image is carefully crafted. And if she's forced to testify, she loses control of the narrative, which means she could be exposed too. After all, if Bryan Freedman follows through on his warning, Taylor won't just be questioned about this lawsuit. She'll have to answer for every single time Blake used her name to gain influence. And if Taylor knew about it but stayed quiet, that's a whole different kind of scandal. So instead of getting involved, she's cutting ties. Not publicly, of course, because that would be too obvious. But make no mistake, Taylor Swift is walking away. The real question is, will that be enough to protect her, or is it already too late? Because once a legal case reaches this level of exposure, things have a way of spiraling out of control. And now, Hollywood insiders are saying this could change the industry forever. But how? Let's talk about what this case really means and why every A-lister in Hollywood is paying attention. This isn't just another celebrity lawsuit. This case has the power to change Hollywood's entire playbook, because if Bryan Freedman forces Taylor Swift to testify, it's not just Blake Lively's credibility on the line, it's the entire system of behind-the-scenes power plays that have shaped Hollywood for years. Think about it. If Blake really used Taylor's name to manipulate deals and boost her own influence, how many other A-listers are doing the exact same thing? And if Taylor knew about it but stayed silent, how much control do the industry's biggest stars actually have? This case could set a precedent for how Hollywood handles power, influence, and backdoor deals. Because for the first time, a real legal battle is threatening to pull back the curtain. If Blake is exposed for playing the system, it could shake up celebrity politics forever. And if Taylor's forced to testify, it could reveal how much of Hollywood's power structure is built on connections and quiet favors rather than real talent. No wonder so many people are desperate to keep this out of court. Because if this case goes to trial, it's not just about Blake and Taylor anymore. It's about every Hollywood star who has ever used their name as leverage. And the question is, how many careers could come crashing down? But before we wrap this up, there's one more thing we need to talk about. Because Blake Lively just made a move that could change everything.
You know, someone asked me recently why this particular case has seized the world. It was just a perfect act of evil that was almost executed in broad daylight.
Just when it seemed like Blake Lively was running out of options, she made one final, desperate move. And it could change everything. According to sources, Blake is now scrambling behind the scenes to keep this case from going to trial. Her team is reportedly pushing for a private settlement, hoping to bury this before it gets any worse. Why? Because if this case actually reaches the courtroom, it's not just Taylor Swift who could be exposed. It's Blake's entire history of backroom deals and name-dropping. And here's the kicker, Bryan Freedman isn't backing down. His message to Blake's lawyers was crystal clear. Settle this my way, or we drag Taylor Swift into this. And if Taylor takes the stand, that could mean a total Hollywood shakeup. But here's where things get even more interesting. Some insiders are saying that Taylor's team is already preparing for the worst. They know that if Bryan Freedman follows through, Taylor won't just be testifying about this case. She'll be forced to answer questions about every time Blake used her name to gain power in Hollywood. And if Taylor knew about it but did nothing, that could be career damaging. Which raises the question, is this why Taylor is suddenly backing away from Blake? Because at the end of the day, Hollywood is built on alliances. But when those alliances become liabilities, the friendships end real fast. So now, the only thing left to ask is, will Blake Lively actually settle? Or is she willing to risk everything? And more importantly, how much does Taylor Swift really have to hide? At this point, one thing is crystal clear. This isn't just about Blake Lively, it's about power, influence, and how Hollywood's biggest stars operate behind the scenes. Because if this case actually goes to trial, it could set a dangerous precedent, one that forces A-listers to be held accountable for their influence. Blake Lively, she's fighting for her career. Taylor Swift, she's trying to protect hers. And Bryan Freedman, he's standing his ground, ready to pull Hollywood's biggest names into the courtroom. But the real question now is, will Blake Lively settle? Or will this case blow the lid off of Hollywood's best-kept secrets? And more importantly, if Taylor Swift is forced to testify, what else will come to light? Let me know what you think. Is Blake Lively really the mastermind here? Or is Taylor Swift hiding more than she's letting on? Drop a comment below, because this story, it's far from over. And if you want to stay updated on everything Hollywood doesn't want you to know, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because trust me, this is just the beginning. All right, show's over. Hungry for more twists? You know where to find us. Keep that popcorn hot, we'll handle the drama. Want to catch the next showdown in real time? Hit subscribe and buckle up.